Ooh, everybody good? Um, well, thank you for being here and spending some time this morning with me. I really appreciate it. Um, have an announcement to make today, and I appreciate you guys allowing me to make this announcement through you. Sheila and I have made a decision that effective June 30th of 2024, we're going to retire from the Ohio State University. Um, had a great opportunity to work with a lot of people here. And I just want to thank the leadership of Ohio State during my tenure for provided me an unbelievable opportunity to lead this program. And so last 19 years or 18 years and started my 19th has been phenomenal. The presidents and the board of trustees that I've worked for have just been tremendous and just great people, great opportunities they provided me. I've always believed that a leader seeks to be the right person at the right time in the life of an institution. And I just believe that July of 2024 the right time to welcome in new leadership, uh, to build on what we've already achieved. Uh, Making this announcement now affords me the opportunity to work with my colleagues in the president's cabinet and hopefully facilitate a transition for the next president once she or he is appointed. But after a 39-year career in intercollegiate athletics and administration, Sheila and I look forward to our next chapter. We plan to spend more consistent quality time with our children, our grandchildren, and our extended family. I also want to thank Buckeye Nation for its support. At Ohio State, we are truly blessed to have the best fans in the land. I think we all know that, and we're just fortunate to have them. Along with Buckeye Nation, I also want to thank the leadership of our business community. Um, I'm immensely grateful to the network of business leaders who have invested in me and invested in our success. I want to thank the members of the media. I understand and I truly respect the job that you have to do, even though sometimes I don't always agree with what you say. At the end of the day, you guys do a tremendous job and a tough job, and it's gotten tougher over the years. So thank you for everything that you do. Um, I also wish to thank the many donors, the great experiences that I've enjoyed, and special memories that were created, and their commitment and generosity to our vision has been phenomenal. And I just want to thank them for their great support and all of the generosity of Buckeye Nation. I also want to thank the coaches and support staff with whom I've been blessed to work. I've been fortunate to work with some of the best in the business, and I'm aware that I stood on their shoulders. And this last year, I will stand on their shoulders. They're the finest in the country, and every single day they come to work to try and ensure our athletic department is the premier athletic department in the country. And I want to thank them for their great work. Lastly, and most importantly, it's been a pleasure every single day and an honor to wake up and come to work and try and create an environment for our student athletes to be successful. They're talented, they're gifted, they're the best there is, and it's just been my honor and my inspiration every single day to work for them. This past year, we witnessed unprecedented performances. Team third in the Directors Cup. 95% of our graduates found jobs or going professional or go to graduate school. We hit our best APR score in the history at 993. So it's a phenomenal year for our student athletes. So unbelievable. So I'm extremely proud of individual team and team championships that have been won during my tenure, and I'm more proud of our efforts to develop student athletes holistically, personally, become future leaders. So I'm really proud of them. Senior Vice President, I also have the role, along with my colleague Mike Papadakis, to lead business advancement. And this advancement continues to do a great job with concerts in this community, particularly with our partnership with Nationwide Arena. Um, our trademark and licensing program is the number one program in the country. It's involved in so many different ways. And we've optimized the use of all of our facilities because of the business advancement efforts. Just really proud of them. But most importantly, lastly, I'm really fortunate to have a wife who understands my world. Uh, we all understand that. You gotta have a partner that is supportive. She's been supportive for a long time, and is a great friend, great colleague. Fortunately, she had been in the business, so she appreciates it. But she's been my emotional support through good times and bad times. I don't know where else she is. She was here a minute ago. Love you, baby. Thank you so much. Appreciate you, still. Um, so I also want to thank my children and grandchildren because they've embraced Buckeye Nation in a big way and taking advantage of the opportunities to party. So really appreciate their support throughout this time. We have another year to chase a lot of opportunities, and we're going to chase them hard like we always do. So I'm here to answer any questions you have, and I know all of you thought that I was coming here to talk about realignment, so I'll answer those questions too. So I'm really proud of Jerry. He did a phenomenal job of keeping us quiet for a while because we had the shelter of that issue. So thank you, Jerry, for your great work. I'm so proud to work with you every single day. So
We'll open it up to the floor for questions. Far right over here, Spencer Holbrook, Letterman Row. Yeah, Gene, you cite your family and you spend time with your grandkids, but with everything that's going on in college athletics right now, why now to choose to step aside and let somebody new?
yeah, it's a great question. I've always embraced change. This is when I'm 76. I came here at what 49 or 48. I forgot. So we've seen a lot of change over that time. So those changes were not a part of this decision. Everything that's happening, some of it I've seen before. Realignment. Um, I was blessed to be a part of the committee that went from the Big 8 to the Big 12. So realignment is not new to me. NIL's new to me, but um, the transfer portal is not new to me. Our Olympic sports have been dealing with that for years. And so, the changes in the industry is not what caused me to say I needed to step away. I just have always felt, and my mentors have always said, you will know when it's time. You'll know. And this summer, she and I sat down, and then she was asking me a million questions, and I just said, it's time. And I do believe that. What I said is, uh, there's the right time for certain leaders at the right time in the institution. And I really believe with this presidential change, which will be highly positive, whoever they hire, gives her or him the opportunity to hire their leader and make a run and build on what these coaches and staff and student athletes have already done.
Third row middle, Daniel. 11 more.
Gene, I mean, just when you kind of see, all these changes that are coming, I guess, when you look at, who could fill your shoes and kind of lead the athletic department next, kind of what would be your advice to them? What do you think are maybe the biggest things that they're going to need to be prepared for as they ultimately take over the Ohio State?
Hopefully, I mean, they're going to hire someone skilled and, with experience. So, someone hopefully with a high IQ, EQ, someone who understands the value of people. It's a huge characteristic. Someone that holds true to their values of integrity and respect for others and excellence in every single thing you do. But they're going to have to be patient. In this ever-changing world that we're dealing with, you got to hit pause and don't overreact, and just be patient and curious and inquisitive, and just ask a lot of questions. And then at some point, you have to be authoritative and lead. But you just can't overreact in this space. It's just too crazy. And then they need to keep the trajectory in what we do. This culture, we recruit talented and gifted young people with great character, and that has meant so much to our classroom, in this community, and on the competitive in the competitive arena. Um, Character is critical, and so we've made a significant improvement in that space. You guys see it. You get those kids every day, and so that person, whoever it is going to have to embrace what we've done, but also, those characteristics that I mentioned earlier, they'll have.
Couple of years ago, you thought it would be a good idea for FBS football to split away from the NCAA. With everything that's happening, do you still think that's the case?
I think there should be a new structure. I threw that out there just to be a bombshell. There's some people in the industry that can put things out there and take the heat, and I'm one of those people. But we need to look at how we're structured differently. I don't know if that's the answer. We just need to keep evaluating how we should be structured, and that relates to even to our scheduling as we integrate Oregon and Washington. Now we need to make sure that our Flex Protect Plus model is appropriate, or should we change it? So I don't know if if that's the right structure, but somewhere along the line we need to think differently about football. Uh, It's it's just so important, and we just need to think differently about it.
Second row middle, Nathan Baird, Cleveland.com.
You mentioned that obviously there is no president right now. So I guess how are you envisioning this transition happening? If that's sort of leadership absence, are you working with the university to integrate that person, and how does that work with your successor?
Great question, Nathan. So our president's cabinet, which is all the vice presidents and senior vice presidents, we meet every Tuesday. We're working closely with the trustees as we manage the institution in the absence of the president, and that's working well right now. At some point, we do need a leader, and so hopefully, when that leader is hired and appointed, I'll be able to connect with them right away. They won't be here right away, but hopefully, I'm able to do a Zoom or meet them in person somewhere and talk about our program and give that person some recommendations on the characteristics that they might consider as they look for a replacement here. So, and then from there, it's just all a matter of timing. When that person's appointed, when they're here, and how they want to do it. If they want to appoint a search committee or a search firm, I just don't know. But I'll defer to whatever they want to do.
Just to clarify on that, the search for your successor, does it start now?
No. It will start. I'm sorry, Nathan. It'll start when the new president's here. Unless something happens and they're not here over the next years, then the trustees will conduct that. But I anticipate that there'll be a new president, and that's that person's hire.
Ask on the expansion side of things. Go back to things you said in the past. Last July, you and President Johnson were using words like huge and significant to talk about the media rights deal that was coming.
Mm-hmm.
Then after the media rights deal came, you expressed some skepticism about adding other teams.
Mm-hmm.
In Oregon and Washington were out there at the time because
Mm-hmm.
it was going to dilute that media rights deal. So do you have any ballpark details about what kind of new revenue is coming in that makes this good or palatable or however?
Yeah, so it was not dilutive to us. So the original dollar figures that we had prior to Oregon and Washington coming in stayed the same for the institutions that were already in. Fox brought new money to the table for Oregon and for Washington that they provided. And I don't know the exact numbers, somewhere between 30 and 35 million. I just don't know what the exact number is. So it wasn't dilutive to us. So the long-term play is that hopefully when we go to negotiate the next deal, there's valuable inventory. So year 5 or 6, whenever, assuming it's Tony goes to negotiate a new deal, you have Oregon and Washington in your portfolio. Does that answer your question, Nathan?
Gene, what are you proudest of over your tenure here? I mean, as specific as you can be. And then on the flip side, biggest challenge, toughest moment.
Oh, wow, Rob, you're going deep on me, man. There's so many great moments. It's funny, the national championship was special. the 3 national championships in volleyball. Men's volleyball was special. The rep national championship was unreal. I think I was in North Carolina with women's basketball and had to fly to St. Louis in order to catch that, to see those young men perform. So there's been championships and individual student athletes who just been so impressive. Christina Manning in track she was just fun to watch. So it's just so many of those. But I'm most proud of the fact that we've been able to create a culture where we develop the student athlete holistically. And that means so much to me, Rob. It really does. That it took us a little bit to transition to that, to make sure that when that student athlete leaves our little cocoon, she or he is ready. They're ready for the next chapter in their life. And we didn't do that well when I first came. Didn't. And I have to compliment my teammates and everybody because they all embrace that vision of making sure we challenge the student athlete early in their career, freshman year, to make them figure out what track they want to be on and put in place the program. So I'm most proud of that. Our kids have great character. They're really good people, and that's cool to me. Challenge, 2011 was hell. That was painful. The student athletes who were impacted didn't deserve the penalties they had to deal with. That was hard. People were affected negatively, and it was a hard time. And so, helping Luke Fickle through that year was hard. That was really challenging, and I have to compliment him for his resiliency and his commitment, and just his stick to itness, try and keep our program afloat. So that was a hard year, dog years, and obviously COVID. We all had that. I mean, I shouldn't talk about that because that should be all in our rearview mirror. But because we all went through that, you guys know that story. So that was a hard year.
You mentioned thinking differently about football. UCLA head coach Chip Kelly came out this week and said that the top, say, 64 programs, football programs in the nation should do what Notre Dame does, and just be independent in football and conferences and everything else. Basically, just create one big football conference. Your thoughts on that, the viability of
it's interesting.
Like
interesting thought. I thought about that, but no, I don't have a whole lot of comments on that. I'm sure there's a lot of ideas out there. I haven't studied that, but it's an interesting idea to throw on the table for the next people.
Yeah. I would be to hurt all of those cats TV-wise.
You look at what's happening in the ACC and the grant of rights and things of that nature. You have those type of things. Even my idea that I threw out there, you got to think long haul. Those ideas don't happen overnight. So you have to say to yourself that that's the future model. That's what we should work towards. And I haven't looked at his idea. So, there's building blocks to get to that. So at the end of the day, whatever model that is evolved, with some committee or whoever, it's not going to happen overnight. I've always felt that there should be an individual that's responsible for college football. This kind of fits that model Dan raised, is that there ought to be an individual that wakes up every single day and that's their job. And rules, all that stuff, it should be compressed into one unit. And it's decentralized in different areas now. And so it's too big, it's too important, and it's going to get bigger. So anyway.
Front row right, Austin Moore, Rivals, dotting the I's.
Gene,
Rivals what?
And dotting the I's.
Oh,
and
okay.
97.1 fan on the
Holy smoke, what a brand.
That's right. I am a businessman. Gene, you never said this publicly. I think many of us, some of us thought that maybe 4 or 5 years ago would have been that right time that you talked about
Mhm.
for retiring. And then you had the transition to Ryan Day, you had COVID. Do you think at all that the timeline for yourself shifted? You stayed longer because of everything that was going on around here and in college sports? Maybe Sheila can answer it.
That's great. She's over there texting, so she didn't hear your. This is great. She didn't hear it, but yeah, you know. So every summer, to your point, she and I sit down and literally think about, okay, what are we gonna attack this year? We got our long-term goals, right? But at the end of the day, what are we gonna attack and accomplish this year? And so those years, I just felt like new leadership couldn't handle those things. I have historical knowledge. I have experience. I need to help my teammates get through those times, everything that you just listed. Um, and it was right for me to be here during those times. But where we are now, none of us can see around the corner. So, I got like what, 11 months. So there's something might be coming out there. But at the end of the day, I just feel comfortable that this team and this culture and everything is right for a new leader to transition in and not have a whole lot of bumps. So that's kind of how.
This is probably unfair for you to address it specifically, but
They don't ask it.
well, because of the challenges of this job and the institutional knowledge that you talked about. I mean, do you think that other than this time, somebody is going to have to come in here who already has that some institutional knowledge?
I don't know. That's really up to the next president. That would be up to what they're looking for in that person. I just think institutional knowledge is important, but that I'm not making that higher. If that answers your question.
You don't think you'll have any input on that?
Oh, I don't know. It depends on the next person. They might not like me.
Second row down, Doug Lavery's podcast.
When you think about all the changes that are going to be implemented now, you're saying the new person coming in hopefully won't have too many bumps. Do you think there are a lot of things ahead, though, just in terms of how an 18-team Big Ten is going to work and all the logistics of that? And again, you guys will be working on that as they're right. You're timing this not coincidentally to them joining the Big Ten and you're leaving sometime next summer. Do you think there are going to be a lot of challenges just with the devil in the details of all of this that the next person will face, or it'll all be smoothed out?
No, it's funny. It's a matter of how you look at things. I don't look at those as challenges. I look at those as opportunities. The merger in USC and UCLA and Oregon and Washington, the 12-team playoff, those decisions were made with good input, with good knowledge, etc. So now that's the work, is actually taking advantage of those decisions. I don't see those as challenges. That's the business. That's what you do. Now, challenges are things that happen around the corner that you don't see. That's coming at you that you got to respond to, and that's where you got to hit pause, use your teammates, be smart. But those things that we're talking about, the changes in the industry, I don't see those as bumps. I really don't. The transfer portal has to be tweaked. The days, the timing, all that stuff. But that's the business. It's always been the business. So I don't see those as bumps. If that makes sense. Our culture is good. Our people are good. We're on a good trajectory with everything else, academically. So I think the person is going to inherit something pretty special.
When you think about the future of college sports that will no longer be your job to worry about, but you'll still care, are you worried? Are you optimistic? Like, what do you think when you're sitting back in retirement and watching? Do you think you'll feel good, or do you think you'll think, oh man, what's going on here?
No, it's funny. I probably will, after I finish, my glass of water. But the reality is, I know that college athletics is going to change. It's changed a lot already, and I can't sit here, and I don't think any of us can sit here and say wish it was like when I played, or I wish it was like when I coached. That's unrealistic thought process. The ecosystem we serve today is totally different, totally different. Their experiences are significantly different. So you have to have this mindset that change is coming. And if you're in it for the right reasons, then you ultimately embrace that change and figure out how you adapt to it. If your goal is to be the best at what you do, then you embrace that change. You shift. One of the greatest books I ever read was John Maxwell's book, Leaders Shift. And it talks about how leaders have to begin to shift because change is inevitable. We all deal with it. So it's just a matter of how you deal with it. So I don't think college athletics is ever going to go in the tank. It's going to be different. There's going to be new legislation. There's going to be a new structure here and there. The student athletes are going to be different. But how do you embrace that change? How do you make the best of it? It's the attitude you have to have, if that makes sense.
Third row right, Cameron Kate Robinson, The Athletic.
I mean, how has your job evolved? I mean, like you've been through a lot of change. How has your job evolved as you try to deal with transport and then also try to deal with realignment as you come up every time?
Yeah, it's that's it. It's kind of a little bit what I was talking to Doug about. You have to first and foremost. There's a lot of layers to that question. So if you're focused on being the best you want to be, then that means the team around you. We have 523 employees in athletics and business advancement. You got to really pay attention to that culture, that environment. And we have a significant number of employees who are just starting in the industry. So making sure that you create a culture where they're being developed, where they're growing. So because it starts right there. If you don't have good people, you can forget. So what's changed for me is recognizing that their experiences have changed and me being sensitive to that, humanistic to that, and making sure I create an environment where they can be the best that they can be. That's really changed. Back in the day, you just worked and you didn't worry about people's feelings and things of that nature. But today, you better. And so that's changed. Everything that we've talked about already seems to be on a faster track. Uh, Nowhere in my experiences have we had the aggregate NIL, transfer portal, um, leadership change at the NCAA, realignment like is happening right now, the evolution of streaming versus linear, the aggregate of those things. I didn't even mention some things have been different. So having to really understand that and adjust to it has changed. And so it's no longer just fundraising and games, right? It's all being able to lead people in the face of those changes. That's changed over the years.
Through all of that, seeing how staff you go, growing, gaining experience through all that. You talked about trust that this staff is behind and deal with the changes. Does that give you more confidence in the next part of all that stuff?
Yeah. There you go. Great question. And that's, I've always wanted to leave a place better than I found it. But I also want to leave a place that when the next person comes in, gives them a chance to transition in as smooth as possible. And they now have that ability with this team. And it always wasn't that way. We've been unstable a little bit. So now it's a situation where I feel they'll come in, they'll make changes. They will based on their style, but they should be able to come in and take their time on the learning curve and allow the team to work. And then they ultimately will make the changes they
Yeah, I have two. One, first, you're not the first Black athletic director, but you're probably the most, people would consider you the most influential, significant one. What does that mean to you? And the other one is not as pleasant. Uh, 5 years ago, when all the stuff happened with Urban and the tax stuff,
Yeah.
how much does that? How much do you think about that? How much part of your legacy do you think that is? Any reflections on that period?
Yeah. So I'll answer the second one first. You know, there's moments in my history where there gets back to Rob's question. You know, 2011 was hard. That was harder than the time that we dealt with Urban, but that was hard, right? You know, I'm disappointed that we were there. Disappointed in the student athletes that had to bear the pain of that. Disappointed that Buckeye Nation had to bear the pain of that. Disappointed you guys had to cover that. So it was hard. And so yeah, in my career, my legacy, not just here, Arizona State, um, uh, Iowa State, Eastern Michigan. There's been times I wish I could have done something different. There's no question about it. And that one you just raised, no question. Um, I don't know. I really shouldn't. I don't want to talk about that. That's not important. But he said everything was smooth, and they look back and they wouldn't have changed the decision they made. I'm not so sure, to be honest with you. But some are perfect. I'm just not perfect. So relative. Give me.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. So it's always been an honor. I at least started this years ago. 29 as an athletic director. One of the few, and there's only two at that time. And I decided that I was just going to do my job and try and do it excellently, and disregard the color of my skin. And that was hard because there were a lot of rooms that I walked into in the 80s, early 90s, where there were people in the room that didn't want me there. And I knew that. Fortunately, I was able to be embraced by the people who did want me there, the Cedric Dempseys of the world, the DeLoss Times, the God bless you, Michael Cleary of the world, who embraced me right away. And there was those others that knew they didn't want me there. But I've always felt that it was an honor, privilege to be the first. And I didn't see it as a burden, except that in the early years, I knew I couldn't fail. Because if I fell, I need an excuse. Back in the day, that's not true today in a lot of places. Still exists, but not as true today with the hiring authorities as it was then. Because if I failed, it would have been, see, they can't do it. So I'm proud of that. I'm proud that I've been blessed to have this career.
Fourth row right, Pete Nakos on 3. Gene, Greg Sankey was on the Paul Weinbaum show yesterday and spoke about where the college football playoff stands right now. Would you like it to be re-examined with all the realignment movements in the last 10 days? And would you be open to an idea possibly where all 12 teams for the top 4 spots?
Yeah, I haven't thought about that, and I have tremendous respect for Greg. I serve on NCAA council committees, and he's outstanding. And so I was texting him this morning about this decision. He's been in a while, so I don't know. I haven't been in those rooms. I haven't thought about that. I like the 12-team playoff, but they have to figure out format considering the conferences, and they have to figure out the revenue share, all that. So I trust Greg, I trust Tony Petiti, so I leave it to them.
Second row left, Callaway.
T, what's up, brother?
24/7 Sports.
Congrats. I remember interviewing you when you got the job.
Yeah, back in the day, I didn't have gray hair.
The before and after pictures of everybody who comes through there. You can talk freely. You're going to be out of this in a year or so. Just in your mind, USC and UCLA, you look at it, you say you're gaining the Los Angeles market, California. Oregon and Washington, to me, doesn't feel like Ohio State benefits, at least monetarily, a whole lot from that. What was the end game? What is the end game in all these chess pieces your mind?
Yeah, well, first, I have a lot of respect for Oregon and Washington. Keep in mind, when we studied UCLA and USC, we also studied Washington. So our learning curve is not that hard. I know those athletic directors, Jen in Washington and Rob at Oregon, good friends and really great colleagues. But they're AAU institutions, strong academic institutions. They're in markets. When you look at the demographics of the Northwest, it's a young population. It's a young population. So when Tony gets to the point of renegotiating a new contract and we have streaming, the demographic might be more amenable to that type of platform. But look at the new coaches AP poll. I think Oregon and Washington are ranked in the top 25, right? They've proven themselves as institutions that invest in their athlete programs. They're valuable uh, uh, institutions to bring into our league. So you got to think long. If I was just thinking competitively, no, I don't want them, man. I don't want to play them. But that's not, how you do business. So I just think they're great institutions. They're going to be. It's going to be exciting for our league for Washington and Oregon to come in at the same time as USC and UCLA. It's going to be exciting for our fans. When they go to Washington or go to Oregon, they're cool places. So I think there's a lot of positive elements around it. Sure, there's some negatives, but the positives outweigh that.
You said that you want to be part of a model where the athletes were employees or paid directly. You guys turned a $20 million profit or whatever the exact number was. Some of that, an 8-home game last year, probably factored into that. And with an increase in television money going forward, at least for your league, at some point, don't you feel like the athletes deserve some of that money that the schools are bringing in, aside from the collective? This, in some way, streamline this entire process of what we all are being led to believe is a bidding war for high school athletes right now with NIL collectives. You can speak freely. You're leaving this model.
I'm not gone yet, though. I'm not gone yet, Steve. Don't go too deep there. You're getting emotional. So get to the question. What's the question?
You can justify not paying the players.
Yeah, first of all, I do not believe that student athletes should be employees. That's a whole new relationship. Now, to the heart of your question, we need to continue to look at ways where we provide monetary support to the student athlete. People forget all the time about the investments we currently make. Okay, so you, as an athlete in football, you get room, board, books, and tuition. And remember, we got cost of attendance approved. That wasn't a part of the scholarship model. Remember the Austin money, the $5,980, that's added to your scholarship. So should there be more money added to that line item? Sure, I'm fine with that. But I want to make sure it's tethered to something educationally as opposed to a paycheck. That's not what I want. So I agree with your premise that we always have to look at ways to invest in student athletes. Now, keep in mind that the other part of what we do, and you guys see that big circle of care out there when you walk out of this room, all that costs money. So every student athlete, unlike the rest of the students on our campus, every student athlete has at least 9 people around them that they can go to for help. Our sports science investment, I don't, you get me going. The dollars that we invest, they help Marvin Harrison be Marvin Harrison from the time he was a puppy to now are significant. Now, you don't count that money. The general public doesn't count that money because they don't see it. And I understand that. But to the premise of your question, yeah, I've always been. That's why I fought for cost of attendance. That's why I fought for parents getting stipends when they travel. So I always believe in that. So I don't disagree with your premise. I disagree with they should be employees. That's a whole new ballgame when you take them to the employee level.
Joey Kaufman, Columbia.
Does that answer your question, Steve?
When you
when you look back on your time here in 2020 about the financial crunch and schools that have cut sports, when you look back on your time, where does that fit into the fact that you were able to keep Ohio State with 36 varsity sports?
Yeah, that's a proud moment. That's a great question. I appreciate that, Joey. It's hard to sustain 36 sport model in this world, especially when you need to make the investments that Steve talked about and make the investments in our facilities and in all those type of things. And our costs go up anywhere from 5 to 6% a year, just naturally because of travel and things of that nature. So probably the fact that we've been able to sustain 36 sports. Proud of our coaches for working within the expenditure guidelines that we provided them, and they've done a great job in that area. Our unit managers as well. So it's hard, and we will continue to fight that. Hopefully, the next person will do that. Not sure, that'll be their call, but really proud of that. And when you look across the country, it's been difficult to reduce sports. So I don't see that as an option for the future.
Challenge for the next person who steps in your shoes to manage all those sports, and what advice would you have for them?
Yeah, just it's a business decision. They'll have to make, and that is a challenge. But when you got good people like the coaches we have, the support staff we have, you can figure it out. And so I really don't know what advice I would give them, except be good at what you do.
Right next door, Tim May, Row.
I was going to ask you one thing, but I want to ask you.
How do I get one of those on 3 hats, man?
Yeah, I've got plenty of them. Some of them are trucker hats. I want to ask you one thing, but I want to ask one thing. I'm following up with Steve's questions. Should there be some kind of bonus structure though set up for athletes, just like there are for coaches? If in fact you get into the college football playoff, I mean, there's people playing 4 games in that thing, and the wear and tear is obvious to anybody. The regular student athlete who doesn't get that should they share some of the bonus situation that's coming from the college football playoff?
I don't know what model. I've always believed that if there's a way that you could find an opportunity to provide additional resources to student athletes, you should do that. And there's a million ideas like yours on how to do that. So I don't know if that's the right model, but that one would take work. You just don't throw out an idea and say that's the right one. It takes work to evaluate the effects of that. What's the taxes on the student athlete? What does that mean to them? So there's just, getting back to Steve's question, there's a way to do it where, you can avoid a lot of issues, but I don't know what those models, what my colleagues would embrace nationally as a model.
And Pat Shea at Washington State, Martin Germán at UCLA, Diana Sabo now at Southern Utah.
Utah State.
Yeah, Utah State. Yeah, I get those mixed up. You have brought forward diverse people into athletic administration during your time and stuff. How proud are you of that? And was that a focus of your regime that you wanted to further other people's dreams?
Yeah, I mean,
I know that sounds kind of sappy, but it is happening.
No, that's true, Tim. I think I was blessed to have those 3, and Heather like at Pitt, Ben Jay. I mean, we had a staff that was very diverse, and we continue to do that. And that's part of the effort. So it kind of ties back a little bit to Bill's question. Back in the day, there wasn't a pipeline, of African Americans. So, we created these opportunities and these seminars. I actually hosted one here years ago, and just trying to create opportunities for young people to get into the pipeline. And so those that you mentioned, we developed and got them out there. And I wasn't the only one. Kevin White did the same thing when he was at Duke, and so there was a concerted effort to improve the diversity of our industry by a few of my colleagues.
One last question. Do you feel like you're stepping away into this school year, but do you feel like college athletics are in a good place, or is this like I was talking with one guy? He said, the college football has never been better on the field and more chaotic off it. I mean, is that a good way of putting it?
it kind of ties to some of these other questions. college, college athletics is in a great place. You have to have a perspective. And so the student athletes that we serve, that's where you got forget about all the other stuff that's happening. Is the student athletes have a great experience. Is that their talents and their gifts are being optimized for them, not just the program, but for them. Are we making the investments necessary so that they can be the best that they can be and chase their dreams? And I don't know what it is everywhere else, but I can tell you here, I just, our student athletes are off the chain. Our volleyball team, our women's basketball team, our men's team, I can just go straight down the list. And those athletes are having a quality educational experience. So all the other stuff is minutia to me. At the end of the day, that's what I care about. The graduation ceremony that, to have a Justin Fields a year ago, come back from Chicago, multimillionaire and walk. Come on. So I think what we have to do as a society is keep that in our focus. If a school's not doing that, then we need to call them out. All the other stuff is just what you do. It's business. Does that make sense? There's no dots in there, Bill, or what?
Should the position come to exist in the near future, if you'd like to be the commissioner of college football?
Next.
Given all the change with football, and it's important for any other department that the level that you all play at. How important is the relationship with the head football coach and your successor? And the process of finding your successor, like the balance between making sure Ryan is compatible and like-minded about the future of football with that person, but also not effectively choosing his own boss.
Yeah, that's that is critical. That is most important. So Ryan and I are aligned like it's never been. No, we got an emotional tie because we share a lot of beliefs, and he's just a good human being. So because of my football background, I can talk to him about who's their left tackle, who's their right tackle, where we are with the quarterback, and what's the issues here, what's the issues there. We have great conversations, but also alignment with the industry, all the issues that we talked about, getting feedback, and such an easy conversation because he's smart. So yes, the answer to your question, that alignment has to exist. You can't have conflict there. I look across the country and I see all of you can see, they're not aligned. So yeah, that's critical. He's we miss him. And he's a real deal.
Time for a couple more. Adam Jardy, Columbus Dispatch.
Hey, Adam.
Congratulations.
Thank you, buddy.
What, in your mind, does a conference season look like for an 18-team conference? When you're talking about sport like men's basketball, where you already played 20 games. How does the math add up for a sport like that?
Yeah, I don't know. That's a great, Adam. We haven't had our call yet on scheduling. We talked about it Monday. We had a call. So that's going to be set up for us over the next couple of weeks to begin those conversations. So I'm not really sure. We have a scheduler in the league that will give us recommendations and advice, and they know our principles. So I just don't know at this point. I'm sorry.
You start looking at going to the West Coast. Do you think it makes sense to package games like USC, then UCLA a few days later to avoid on some of the fatigue of travel across the country?
Yeah, that's already been talked about as something we need to consider. So not just for basketball, but for all our sports. If our women's soccer team is going out to play UCLA, then they should have a day in between and play USC. So those scenarios, our senior women administrators have done a phenomenal job setting up our framework for that. Now with Oregon and Washington coming in, we kind of have to reevaluate and see if that framework still works.
Other than football, fit into the conversation about expanding the conference.
Yeah, so each sport is different. What we can't do is look at all of them holistically. Tennis is different than volleyball. Swimming is different than track, so you have to kind of look at them that way. And so our senior women administrators have done a great job of looking at each individual sport, their nuances, their seasons, their ability to have postseason competition, in the conference and nationally. So they've created a framework that still they're working on, and they'll continue to work on now at Oregon and Washington. So all of them have similar issues. That's basketball, but now we just got to kind of dig in deeper. That makes sense.
And right behind Adam, Joe Nugent, WCMH.
Hey, Joe.
How's it going?
All right.
On the personal side, curious when the calendar hits July next year, is there anything you're looking forward to finally do?
Yeah, that first week, I think we're going with our family to Colorado. So, she was already figured that out. But yeah, my plan is to move on, get out of the way and let the new leader lead and or his hair. So that's the deal. Yeah, I'm looking forward to July. Come back to one of your press conferences, just to guys, maybe tell me, give me a hat, I can sit in the back and ask questions. Yeah.
Gene, over the next 11 months for you, balancing wanting to leave, a positive landscape for the next AD, and how do you balance that? How do you envision your focuses over these next 11 months?
Yeah, great question. I intend to sit down with my team and have a conversation about I focus this year. There's a lot of things to do, but in my short time, I'll take their advice. What do you guys think I should focus on? So I don't make those decisions by myself. So haven't done that yet, but at some point I'll sit with them and we'll brainstorm, and I'm sure fundraising is a large part of the job. But, I'll just have to talk to them to get their feedback, and then I'll focus based upon what they say.
Gene, thank you very much.
Thank you, all of you. Thank you. Appreciate it, Jerry.
A couple of you guys I know have texted me. They wanted to ask Gene a one-on-one question. Gracious enough to give us a little bit more time. So if you play pop up, you can take it right outside if you want. And we'll just stay in here and work. We'll have Coach Day in here probably in might be an hour and 15, 20 minutes. But hang in here and work. And again, a couple of you guys wanted an additional question or two. So Gene will